before the rise of empires like Alexander's, before Socrates walked the streets of Athens, there was a man named Pyrrho. Born around 360 BC in the ancient region of Elis, western Peloponnese, Pyrrho would grow to challenge the very foundations of Greek philosophy. Elis, a land known for its natural beauty and rich history, was also home to the ancient Olympic Games. It was here, amidst these storied surroundings, that Pyrrho would take his first breaths. Little is known about Pyrrho's early life, but one thing is clear: he would leave an indelible mark on the world of ideas. Fast forward to 360 BC, and Pyrrho begins his journey into philosophy. It's a path that will lead him to question everything he knows, to seek unperturbedness in an ever-changing world. His full name, Pyrrhonian, is a reminder of his roots and the cultural context that shaped him. As he grows older, Pyrrho's ideas will gain traction, sparking debates that echo through time. His name becomes synonymous with a radical philosophy that challenges the very nature of knowledge itself. Today, Pyrrho's life and teachings are captured in numerous texts, including entries in the World History Encyclopedia and even a dedicated Wikipedia page. These resources offer a glimpse into his profound influence on Western thought. The journey of Pyrrho is not just one of personal growth, but also of the evolution of philosophical ideas. It's a story that invites us to question, to seek clarity in uncertainty, and perhaps to find a measure of peace in an ever-changing world. But for now, let's return to where it all began, the serene landscapes of ancient Elis. For it is here that the seeds of Pyrrho's philosophy were first planted. Pyrrho's journey began in the tranquil landscapes of ancient Elis, where his ideas first took root. To understand how Pyrrho came to advocate for a life of unperturbedness and skepticism, we must look at the influences that shaped his thinking. Among these early influences were the Greek atomists and ethical traditions. Atomism, proposed by philosophers like Democritus, posited that the universe is composed of tiny, indivisible particles called atoms. This idea challenged conventional beliefs about reality, suggesting that what we perceive as solid and continuous may actually be made up of tiny, unseen elements. Alongside atomism, Pyrrho was drawn to ethical traditions that emphasized the importance of living a life free from disturbance and emotional turmoil. A key figure in this regard was Anaxarchus of Abdera, a Democritian philosopher who emphasized the pursuit of Ataraxia, a state of serenity and freedom from anxiety. Anaxarchus believed that true happiness comes not from external circumstances, but from within, through the cultivation of inner peace and equanimity. Under Anaxarchus's guidance, Pyrrho began to explore these ideas more deeply, eventually leading him to advocate for a life of unperturbedness and skepticism. The concept of skepticism itself is rooted in the Greek word skeptikos, meaning an inquirer or seeker, someone who questions and explores. Pyrrho's philosophical journey was marked by a deep curiosity about the nature of reality and the pursuit of inner tranquility. These early influences set the stage for Pyrrho's later advocacy of skepticism, a philosophy that would challenge conventional wisdom and encourage a life free from disturbance. And as he continued to delve deeper into these ideas, the seeds of his philosophical beliefs would blossom into a powerful call for unperturbedness and skepticism. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. For now, let's explore how these philosophical foundations translated into the everyday life and experiences of Pyrrho. Pyrrho's travels with Alexander the Great were more than just a historical footnote. They profoundly shaped his worldview. In 334 BCE, the same year that marked the start of Alexander's campaign to the east, Pyrrho set foot on foreign soil. As they traversed Persia and reached the shores of the Indian subcontinent in 324 BCE, Pyrrho witnessed firsthand the diversity of human cultures. He observed the vast array of customs, beliefs, and societal structures that coexisted within this vast expanse. This exposure to diverse cultures seeded in Pyrrho a profound skepticism about the absolutes of any single belief system. His encounters with various philosophical traditions challenged his preconceived notions. In the cities they conquered, Pyrrho noted the resilience of the people despite their changing circumstances. He saw how beliefs and practices could be profoundly shaken, but still maintained a sense of unperturbedness. This journey led Pyrrho to advocate for a life of equanimity, where one remains undisturbed by the shifting sands around them. Thus, his travels with Alexander not only broadened his perspective, but also fortified his philosophical beliefs in the face of a changing world. His travels with Alexander introduced him to non-Greek thinkers who challenged his philosophical perspectives. One group that had a profound impact on him were the Gymnosophists, Greek for naked philosophers. These Indian thinkers practiced asceticism, living in simplicity and detachment from worldly pleasures. Their teachings emphasized self-control, endurance of hardships, and the pursuit of inner peace. Pyrrho found resonance in their philosophies, which advocated for a life devoid of attachment to material possessions. He also encountered the Magi of Persia, known for their mystical practices and esoteric knowledge. These wise men believed in the power of inner spirituality and the importance of solitude for self-realization. Upon returning to Elis, Pyrrho chose to live a life of simplicity, adopting many of the principles he had learned from these thinkers. He advocated for Ataraxia, or unperturbedness, as the ultimate goal of life, a state of inner tranquility amidst the chaos of the world. This philosophy led him to live in very poor circumstances, believing that true contentment lay not in material wealth, but in spiritual wisdom and inner peace. After his travels, Pyrrho returns to Elis in 32-4 BCE, a city renowned for its sacred Olympic games and bustling markets. His journey with Alexander the Great has left him with profound insights, shaped by encounters with Indian gymnosophists and Persian magi. Back in Elis, Pyrrho chooses a life of simplicity, shunning the city's vibrant public spaces for quiet contemplation. He begins to adopt an unassuming lifestyle, often seen walking barefoot through the streets. Rather than indulging in the city's pleasures, he turns inward, seeking Ataraxia, a state of unperturbedness. His beliefs lead him to advocate for a life centered on spiritual wisdom rather than material wealth. This philosophy, honed over years of travel and study, transforms his daily routine in Elis. Pyrrho's withdrawal from society is not a retreat, but an active choice to embody his teachings. This shift in lifestyle reflects the profound influence of his philosophical journey and the wisdom he brought back to Elis. Pyrrhonism, a philosophy that advocates for skepticism and resistance to judgment, finds its roots in the experiences of Pyrrho. These Eastern thinkers emphasized living in a state of unperturbedness, or Ataraxia, which profoundly influenced Pyrrho. Central to Pyrrhonism is the belief that sense perception does not correlate with reality. This doctrine suggests that one must resist making judgments or stating conclusions based solely on sensory input. The core of Pyrrhonism lies in its advocacy for skepticism and the suspension of judgment based on sense perception. This philosophical stance reflects Pyrrho's experiences and his belief that reality is best understood through a state of unperturbedness. Pyrrho taught that by remaining skeptical of any dogma, one would lead a peaceful life. By withholding dogmatic belief and embracing skepticism, Pyrrho advocated for living a life of tranquility. This practical application of his philosophical beliefs illustrates how Pyrrho's skepticism translated into a way of living. Through his experiences and teachings, Pyrrho established the living model of the skeptical sage, whose tranquility arises from withholding dogmatic belief. His teachings focus on achieving inner tranquility through skepticism. This practical approach to life is what sets Pyrrho apart as the first skeptic. By advocating for a life of unperturbedness and skepticism, Pyrrho's experiences and philosophical beliefs paved the way for leading a peaceful existence. Discovering how his philosophical beliefs translated into practical living offers a glimpse into the wisdom of Pyrrho's teachings. Pyrrho's teachings did not exist in isolation. They were nurtured and propagated by a small yet devoted circle of followers. Among these dedicated disciples was Timon of Phlius. His connection with Pyrrho is captured in the Python Dialogue, a poetic portrait that offers a window into Pyrrho's world. Through Timon's pen, we see Pyrrho as a figure who advocated for living in a state of unperturbedness. This equanimity was not merely theoretical, it was the culmination of Pyrrho's experiences and travels. These encounters shaped his belief that true tranquility comes from withholding dogmatic belief. Back in Elis, Pyrrho lived a simple and withdrawn life, a living model of the skeptical sage whose peace comes from resisting absolute truth. Through Timon's writings, we see that Pyrrho taught his followers to resist making judgments based on sense perceptions alone. Timon's Python Dialogue not only memorializes Pyrrho, but ensures that his philosophical beliefs continue to resonate through the ages. Pyrrho's journey didn't just resonate with philosophers, it also caught the attention of his fellow citizens in Elis. Upon returning from his travels, Pyrrho was reportedly honored by his community. Some accounts suggest that these honors included priesthoods, a role that would have bestowed him with significant civic privileges in ancient Greek society. But what's striking is not just the honors themselves, but how they align with Pyrrho's philosophy of unperturbedness. If his fellow citizens saw fit to honor him in this way, it speaks volumes about their recognition of his unique perspective and lifestyle. Pyrrho's philosophy has endured through the ages, preserved in historical texts that chronicle his life and beliefs. One of these key texts is Diogenes Laertius's writings on Pyrrho. Diogenes Laertius provided valuable insights into Pyrrho's upbringing and training. Another crucial text is Eusebius's work, which contains the Aristocles passage. This passage holds Pyrrho's core doctrine. Eusebius preserved Pyrrho's teachings on suspending judgment and living a life of unperturbedness. Through these historical texts, we gain a clearer picture of how Pyrrho's experiences shaped his philosophical beliefs. These writings highlight the journey that led him to advocate for a life of skepticism and inner tranquility. It's fascinating how historical texts have kept Pyrrho's philosophy alive, allowing us to understand his unique perspective today. These documents are more than just records, they are testimonies to a life lived in pursuit of wisdom and inner peace. And as we delve deeper into Pyrrho's teachings, we find that his philosophy offers timeless insights into the art of living well. Pyrrho, a philosopher from ancient Greece, advocated for a life of unperturbedness and skepticism. He believed that by suspending judgment on all matters, one could achieve true peace of mind. This principle, known as Pyrrhonism, emphasizes the importance of skepticism to cultivate inner tranquility. Later philosophers, such as Epicurus, would borrow and expand upon these ideas. This idea was revolutionary for its time and has continued to influence thought throughout history. His ideas continue to resonate today, serving as a reminder of the timeless quest for inner peace and understanding. Pyrrho's legacy of skepticism is one that has stood the test of time, leaving an indelible mark on philosophy. The core principle of Pyrrhonism, as it came to be known, is the suspension of judgment regarding sense perceptions. This radical idea was not just a philosophical stance, but a way of life that Pyrrho himself embodied. Pyrrho's teachings had a profound influence on his contemporaries and future generations of philosophers. The enduring impact of Pyrrho's philosophy is a testament to the power of his ideas. His legacy serves as an invitation to question our perceptions and strive for a state of tranquil skepticism. Pyrrho's journey into philosophy was not merely shaped by his travels with Alexander the Great, it was deeply influenced by the rich intellectual landscape of pre-Socratic and sophistic thought. Among the earliest philosophers, the pre-Socratics grappled with profound questions about reality and perception. For instance, Parmenides argued that true knowledge must be absolute and unchanging, a view that contrasted sharply with the world of sensory experience. This tension between what we perceive and what might truly exist laid the groundwork for Pyrrho's skepticism. The sophists, known for their relativistic views, further challenged conventional wisdom by suggesting that truth is not universal but relative to each individual's perspective. Thinkers like Protagoras famously declared that man is the measure of all things, implying that truth is subjective and varies from person to person. Pyrrho would have encountered these ideas during his formative years, absorbing the notion that what seems real may not be so. His experiences with Alexander and the Eastern philosophies only served to reinforce this skeptical outlook. Ultimately, Pyrrho's philosophy advocated for a life of unperturbedness, where one suspends judgment about everything except the immediate sensations that guide action. Pyrrho's philosophy of unperturbedness wasn't merely an abstract idea, but a practical guide to everyday life and interactions. This principle was applied to daily life through a practice known as Ataraxia, a state of freedom from disturbance or anxiety. Pyrrho taught that to achieve Ataraxia, one must live in accordance with the flow of nature and accept what comes without resistance. For instance, if you were walking down a street and encountered an obstacle like a rock in your path, Pyrrho would advise that you simply acknowledge its presence and adjust your course rather than getting upset or trying to move it. Historical texts describe how Pyrrho advocated for treating all people equally, regardless of their social status. He believed that everyone should be treated with the same respect and consideration, eliminating any potential sources of conflict or anxiety. This principle was particularly notable in the context of ancient Greek society, where social hierarchy was deeply ingrained. Pyrrho's teachings on unperturbedness also extended to how one should conduct oneself in social interactions. He advised against engaging in heated debates or arguments, as these could lead to emotional turmoil and disturb one's inner tranquility. Instead, Pyrrho recommended a calm and collected demeanor even when faced with disagreement or opposition. This approach was designed to maintain an inner equilibrium where one remains unaffected by external circumstances. Pyrrho's philosophy was not just a theoretical construct, but a practical guide for navigating the complexities of life. It offered a path to inner peace and stability amidst the ever-changing dynamics of human relationships and interactions. From the bustling markets of Athens to the quiet halls of Rome, philosophical ideas have a way of traveling through time and space. As Rome grew into an empire, its thirst for knowledge was insatiable. This is where Pyrrho's ideas found new life. These ideas resonated with Roman philosophers who sought to understand the true nature of knowledge and perception. The influence of outlines of Pyrrhonism extended beyond philosophy, shaping the intellectual landscape of Rome and challenging conventional wisdom. This demonstrates how Pyrrho's ideas endured and influenced later thinkers, spreading from Greece to Rome and beyond. Modern interpretations of Pyrrhonism often emphasize its pragmatic approach to achieving inner peace and tranquility. Contemporary philosophers such as Richard Popkin have explored how Pyrrho's skepticism can be seen as a response to the challenges of his time. They argue that Pyrrho's ideas were influenced by the tumultuous political landscape of ancient Greece, where questioning authority was essential for survival. Popkin suggests that skepticism allowed Pyrrho to navigate a world filled with uncertainty and distrust. Today, scholars like Agnes Bolsoner discern parallels between Pyrrhonism and postmodern skepticism, which questions the absolutes of knowledge and truth. These comparisons highlight the enduring relevance of Pyrrho's ideas in contemporary philosophical discussions. Instead, it encourages a state of unperturbedness that allows for thoughtful engagement with the world, In this sense, Pyrrho's philosophy offers a path to peaceful coexistence amidst disagreement and differing beliefs. The enduring significance of Pyrrho's ideas underscores the timeless quest for inner peace and tranquility in a complex world. To grasp the philosophical underpinnings of Pyrrho's beliefs, we must journey back to the early Hellenistic period, a time when new ideas were beginning to take root in the minds of thinkers like him. Democritus, a pre-Socratic philosopher, had significant influence on Anaxarchus and, by extension, on Pyrrho. This idea challenged conventional notions of reality and perception, positing that what we perceive is merely a subjective interpretation of these fundamental building blocks. Pyrrho's early exposure to these philosophical traditions planted seeds of skepticism in his mind. His travels with Alexander the Great further deepened this skepticism as he encountered the Gymnosophists, Indian thinkers who taught a path of mental tranquility. These philosophical roots coalesced in Pyrrho, driving him to advocate for a life of unperturbedness, a state of mental tranquility and freedom from disturbances. Through this intellectual lineage, we see the foundations that shaped Pyrrho's unique philosophy, a quest for inner peace amidst the complexities of the world. The relationship between Pyrrhonism and other skeptical movements is nuanced. While both advocate for suspension of judgment, Pyrrhonism differs in its pursuit of a peaceful life over the search for truth. Academic skepticism, for instance, focuses on finding certainty through questioning. In contrast, Pyrrho taught that true peace of mind comes from withholding dogmatic beliefs. This epistemological stance, unique in its time, challenges our modern assumptions about the pursuit of knowledge. Pyrrhonism posits that sense perceptions do not correlate to reality. This philosophy, although radical for its time, set a foundation that later philosophical movements, including Epicureanism, would borrow from. Pyrrho's philosophy, though radical in his time, continues to resonate today. In our daily lives, the practice of suspending judgment can lead to a state of unperturbedness. Consider the common experience of traffic congestion. While stuck in a line of cars, it's easy to become frustrated and judgmental. Pyrrho would advocate for observing the situation without assigning blame or making snap judgments. This approach can help maintain equanimity and prevent unnecessary stress. Historical figures like the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius practiced this principle. Aurelius advocated for viewing challenges as opportunities to cultivate inner strength and resilience. In the heat of the moment, practicing this philosophy can be difficult, but with consistent effort, one can develop a habit of unperturbedness. Pyrrho's teachings offer a practical guide to navigating life's challenges with calm and clarity. By suspending judgment and cultivating equanimity, we can approach life's hurdles with a calm and collected mindset. Pyrrho's teachings on skepticism and unperturbedness have resonated through history, influencing numerous philosophical movements. One of the most significant figures to build upon Pyrrho's ideas was Sextus Empiricus, a Roman skeptic who lived in the late 2nd and early 3rd centuries AD. He saw skepticism as a way to achieve tranquility by suspending judgment on all matters. This approach was not just theoretical. Empiricus advocated for living out these principles in daily life. The legacy of Pyrrho's ideas extends far beyond his immediate followers. During the Middle Ages and Renaissance, philosophers continued to explore the concepts of doubt and tranquility that Pyrrho had first articulated. Thinkers like Michel de Montaigne in the 16th century admired Pyrrho's approach to skepticism as a means of intellectual humility. In modern times, the influence of Pyrrhonian thought can be seen in philosophical movements that emphasize doubt and tranquility. The enduring relevance of Pyrrho's ideas underscores their timeless wisdom and practical application in navigating life's uncertainties. By cultivating a mindset of skepticism and equanimity, we can approach the complexities of modern life with greater calmness and clarity. It's no surprise that Pyrrho, with his unique blend of Greek atomism and ethical traditions, would go on to influence the Hellenistic philosophers of his time. His emphasis on skepticism and the suspension of judgment resonated deeply with those seeking a path to tranquility in an increasingly complex world. In fact, Epicurus so admired Pyrrho that he adopted many of his philosophical principles into what we now know as Epicureanism. But it wasn't just the Epicureans who were influenced by Pyrrho. The Stoics, too, found value in his teachings. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, was particularly interested in Pyrrho's idea of living a life free from perturbations. This concept deeply influenced Zeno's own teachings on how to live a virtuous and peaceful life in the face of adversity. Finally, there was Arcesilaus, who led the academy at Athens during Pyrrho's lifetime. Arcesilaus is known for founding academic skepticism, which drew heavily on Pyrrho's ideas about the suspension of judgment. Thus, Pyrrho's influence extended across various schools of thought within Hellenistic philosophy. Pyrrho's journey through ancient Greek philosophy is deeply intertwined with the prevailing theories of knowledge at the time. Let's explore how his skepticism both challenged and complemented these views. In ancient Greece, Plato proposed the theory of forms, which posited that the world we perceive is merely a shadow of a more perfect realm of forms or ideas. These ideas are eternal and unchanging. For Plato, true knowledge comes from understanding these ideas, not from sensory experience alone. Aristotle, on the other hand, advocated for an empirical approach to knowledge. He believed that by observing and studying the natural world, we can come to understand its underlying principles. This contrast between Plato's idealism and Aristotle's empiricism set the stage for Pyrrho's radical approach to skepticism. Pyrrho questioned both camps, suggesting that neither ideal forms nor empirical observations provide certain knowledge. He believed that our senses deceive us and that true understanding lies in suspending judgment. His philosophy emphasized inner tranquility, achieved by not making judgments about the true nature of reality. For Pyrrho, the nature of knowledge was deeply tied to our ability to remain unperturbed in a world filled with uncertainty. In doing so, he offered a unique perspective on the quest for knowledge that both complemented and challenged the prevailing philosophies of his time. Pyrrho's skepticism thus deepens our understanding of ancient theories of knowledge by highlighting the limits of both idealism and empiricism. His journey inspired a radical shift in his own philosophy. If our sense perceptions do not perfectly correlate to reality, then we must remain skeptical of all conclusions. But how does this philosophical stance translate into practical wisdom? Consider a sailor navigating uncharted waters. Facing the vast unknown, the sailor must make decisions based on incomplete information: the wind's direction, the stars' positions, and the sea's currents. By remaining skeptical of any single conclusion and being open to multiple possibilities, the sailor can adapt more effectively to the ever-changing conditions. Similarly, in everyday life, Pyrrho's skepticism offers a method for dealing with adversity and uncertainty. When faced with difficult choices or uncertain outcomes, embracing skepticism allows us to remain unperturbed and adaptable. Pyrrho's philosophy thus becomes a practical guide for making decisions under uncertainty. By not clinging to any single conclusion and maintaining an open mind, we can navigate the complexities of life with greater resilience. Perhaps this is why Pyrrho's philosophy continues to resonate even today. It offers not just philosophical insight, but practical wisdom for living a life of unperturbedness. Stoicism, too, advocated for virtues that would foster inner peace, yet it did so through adherence to strict moral codes. Pyrrho's method, however, was simpler. By refusing to assert anything as certain, he sought a state of unperturbedness, a mental calm not dependent on external conditions. The Cynics promoted a life of simplicity, arguing that freedom comes from living with few possessions. Pyrrho's philosophy complemented this by suggesting that mental freedom comes from holding no firm beliefs. Pyrrho's life and teachings offer a unique blend within ancient Greek philosophy. By remaining skeptical, he advocated for an art of living that focuses on the mind's serenity. This method complements and contributes to broader ancient ideals of a well-lived life, showing that true wisdom lies not in what we know, but in recognizing the limits of our knowledge. In a world filled with constant change and uncertainty, Pyrrho's philosophy offers a timeless lesson. By embracing skepticism, we can find an inner calm that is not shaken by the storms around us. This quiet wisdom, the art of living well, is perhaps what resonates most powerfully about Pyrrho's teachings even today. Stoicism, founded by Zeno of Citium around 300 BC, emphasizes living in accordance with nature or logos, the principle of reason and order within the universe. At the core of this philosophy is the concept of adiaphora, things that are neither good nor bad, but indifferent. This idea has deep roots in Pyrrho's teachings of skepticism. Both Pyrrhonian skepticism and Stoicism advocate for a life lived with equanimity, where one does not get disturbed by external events or attachments. Pyrrho's radical suspension of judgment is echoed in the Stoic practice of mental exercises designed to cultivate inner tranquility. Both philosophies recognize that our perceptions do not always align with reality, and thus one should strive for an unperturbed mind. Key Stoic figures like Seneca and Epictetus were influenced by Pyrrho's philosophy. Seneca, in particular, wrote about the importance of mental discipline to achieve a state of tranquility that is not easily shaken by external circumstances. The influence of Pyrrhonian skepticism can be seen clearly in the Stoic emphasis on mental fortitude and detachment from material things. This legacy demonstrates the lasting impact of Pyrrho's ideas on subsequent philosophical movements. As we explore these connections, it becomes clear that Pyrrho's teachings did not just resonate in his time, but have continued to shape our understanding of how to live a life well. And perhaps that is what makes his philosophy so enduringly powerful. But for now, let us continue our journey through the influences and impacts of Pyrrho's thought as we uncover more about the philosophical movements he inspired. The word Ataraxia derives from Greek origins, meaning freedom from disturbance. Interestingly, Epicurus also adopted this term to describe a central aspect of his philosophy. For Epicurus, Ataraxia represented the absence of fear or anxiety about the gods and death. This idea was influenced by Pyrrho's radical skepticism, which questioned the reliability of sense perceptions. By suspending judgment on all matters, Pyrrhonian thought aimed to achieve a peaceful and tranquil state of mind. Epicurus built upon this concept, adding his own ideas about materialism and hedonism. Though their philosophies differed in many ways, both Pyrrho and Epicurus saw ataraxia as the ultimate goal for a content life. This shared pursuit of tranquility illustrates the cross-pollination of ideas about mental peace in Hellenistic philosophy. Pyrrho's journey was marked by a deep quest for inner peace, a pursuit that echoed through the halls of philosophy across Greece. Around the same time in Athens, the school known as the Skeptical Academy was being established. Founded by philosophers like Arcesilaus and Carneades, this academy sought to challenge the dogmas of their time. While Pyrrho advocated for a life of unperturbedness through skepticism, the Skeptical Academy adopted a similar stance. This idea was not new. It had been practiced by Indian thinkers and later embraced by Pyrrho during his travels with Alexander the Great. The Skeptical Academy carried on this tradition, further developing it into a coherent philosophical school. Through figures like Arcesilaus and Carneades, the principles of skepticism evolved and spread across ancient Greece. Thus, the seeds of skepticism planted by Pyrrho found fertile ground in the Skeptical Academy of Athens. Cicero, the renowned orator and statesman, was particularly intrigued by the concept of ataraxia, which he translated as tranquilitas. This idea resonated with him deeply, reflecting his desire for inner peace amidst the tumultuous political landscape of Rome. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, also found value in Pyrrhonian skepticism. He incorporated the notion of suspending judgment into his teachings on mental fortitude and emotional resilience. Marcus Aurelius, often hailed as the last of the 5 good emperors, was deeply influenced by Stoicism, but also resonated with Pyrrho's teachings. He wrote in his Meditations about the importance of not being carried away by appearances or opinions. These Roman thinkers saw practical value in Pyrrhonian skepticism, which advocated for a life of unperturbedness through the suspension of judgment. The concept of tranquilitas became central to Roman practical philosophy, emphasizing inner peace and mental equilibrium in a world filled with uncertainty and turmoil. This idea continues to hold relevance today, highlighting the enduring practical application of Pyrrho's teachings in navigating modern life's complexities and uncertainties. Pyrrho's journey through ancient Greece was marked by an unusual pursuit, not wisdom, not knowledge, but a state of unperturbedness called Ataraxia, a profound calm that is often compared to the stillness of the sea on a windless day. But how did Pyrrho arrive at this radical belief? To understand his philosophy and its connection with Greek ideas of happiness, let's delve into the concept of Eudaimonia, a term central to ancient Greek thought. Eudaimonia translates roughly to human flourishing, a state of well-being and happiness that encompasses not just personal contentment, but also fulfillment through virtuous actions and the pursuit of wisdom. This idea is rooted in the works of philosophers like Aristotle, who believed that eudaimonia could only be achieved through the practice of virtue and living a life aligned with nature. For Pyrrho, however, the path to eudaimonia lay not in virtuous action, but in a radical form of skepticism, the suspension of judgment on all matters, including the existence or non-existence of objects and the nature of reality itself. Another story recounts how Pyrrho was unaffected by the antics of a mischievous boy who tried to disturb his equanimity, highlighting his belief that true happiness comes from within and is not dependent on external circumstances. For Pyrrho, this inner peace was the ultimate goal of life, a form of eudaimonia achieved through the suspension of judgment and the acceptance of uncertainty. While Pyrrho's radical skepticism may seem contrary to the traditional Greek pursuit of wisdom, it is interesting to note that his philosophy found resonance with later thinkers like Epicurus, who also advocated for a life free from anxiety and fear as a path to true happiness. By embracing uncertainty and living in a state of unperturbedness, Pyrrho offered a unique perspective on the ancient Greek ideal of eudaimonia, a path to true contentment and fulfillment that transcends external circumstances. His teachings serve as a reminder that true happiness may lie not in mastering the world, but in finding peace within ourselves, no matter what storms or trials we face. Perhaps by embracing Pyrrho's skepticism and seeking ataraxia, we too can find a deeper form of eudaimonia, a profound calm that endures even in life's most turbulent moments. Pyrrho's philosophy didn't fade with his lifetime. It traveled through time and space, echoing in the minds of medieval thinkers. In a world where dogma was law, Pyrrho's skepticism was a whisper of freedom. The whispers of Pyrrho's skepticism traveled through time, echoing in the minds of those seeking tranquility. It wasn't just a philosophical concept, it was a way of life that promised mental peace amidst life's chaos. Consider a busy professional juggling multiple responsibilities. Pyrrhonian skepticism could offer a respite from the stress of decision-making. Instead of trying to validate every choice with certainty, embracing uncertainty can lead to a sense of calm. By suspending judgment, one acknowledges that many factors are beyond control. A case study from the modern workplace illustrates this principle. A manager facing a critical decision chooses not to rush into conclusions, but rather collects more data and considers various perspectives. This deliberate pause allows for a clearer assessment of the situation, reducing impulsive actions that might lead to regret or stress. In personal relationships, Pyrrhonian principles can help manage expectations and avoid disappointments. Accepting that people's actions are often unpredictable fosters resilience. For example, a person might expect their partner to always be on time for dates. However, acknowledging the variability of human behavior can prevent frustration when plans don't go as expected. This flexibility in thinking allows individuals to adapt to changes and maintain a peaceful state of mind. Finally, the principle of Ataraxia, or unperturbedness, can be applied through mindfulness practices. Regular meditation helps train the mind to stay calm and focused despite external distractions. Imagine sitting in a quiet room, focusing on the breath as thoughts arise and pass without judgment. This practice aligns with Pyrrho's teachings of not clinging to any thought or sensation. By incorporating these techniques into daily routines, individuals can cultivate a deeper sense of tranquility and resilience in the face of life's uncertainties. Pyrrho's philosophy invites us to see the world with an open mind, accepting that many things are beyond our control. Embracing this perspective can lead to a life of mental peace and clarity. One of the earliest critiques came from Aristotle, who argued that Pyrrhonism led to inaction and stagnation. If one suspends judgment on all matters, how can they make informed decisions or take meaningful action? Pyrrho and his followers addressed this critique by emphasizing that their skepticism did not imply paralysis, but rather a state of mental freedom. They believed that by suspending judgment, one could avoid the turmoil caused by dogmatic beliefs and live a peaceful life. The Stoics, who emerged during the Hellenistic period, also had reservations about Pyrrhonism. They argued that by suspending judgment on sense perceptions, one would lose their ability to navigate the world effectively. In response, the Pyrrhonists maintained that while senses may not provide absolute truths, they are still valuable tools for practical living. They posited that one could use sense perceptions pragmatically without falling into the trap of dogmatic certainty. During the medieval period, Christian philosophers such as Augustine criticized Pyrrhonism for its perceived nihilism and denial of divine truths. However, even these critiques did not diminish the resilience of Pyrrho's philosophy. Pyrrho's journey into skepticism begins with the study of epistemology, the branch of philosophy that investigates the nature and origin of knowledge. From Protagoras, he learns that all knowledge is relative and depends on the individual's perception. Plato's theory of forms suggests that physical objects are mere shadows of perfect forms existing in a transcendent realm. These diverse views challenge Pyrrho's assumptions about the certainty of knowledge. He ponders whether our senses can truly capture reality or if they merely provide us with illusory perceptions. These philosophical encounters plant seeds of doubt that will germinate into his core belief in skepticism. The Gymnosophists and Magi teach him the value of equanimity and tranquility in the face of uncertainty. Upon returning to Elis, Pyrrho adopts a life of simplicity and withdrawal, focusing on achieving inner tranquility. He advocates for suspending judgment and living in a state of unperturbedness called Ataraxia. Through his philosophical journey and epistemological beliefs, Pyrrho arrives at the core tenet of his philosophy, the pursuit of tranquility through skepticism. Imagine, for instance, trying to decide between two political candidates. Rather than becoming entrenched in dogma or absolutist views, Pyrrho's skepticism encourages a balanced assessment of both sides. This balanced perspective helps navigate the complexities of life without being swayed by extremes or dogmatic certainties. Pyrrho believed that uncertainty could be a pathway to tranquility, not an obstacle to it. As we explore the ethical implications of Pyrrhonian skepticism, we see how his philosophy can guide us through the maze of life's uncertainties with a calm and collected demeanor. In doing so, Pyrrho offers a practical model for modern-day decision-making: embrace uncertainty, avoid extremes, and maintain a balanced perspective to achieve inner tranquility. This is the core tenet of Pyrrhonian skepticism in practice. By adopting this mindset, we can navigate life's complexities with equanimity, avoiding the pitfalls of dogmatic beliefs and embracing the wisdom that comes from uncertainty. Early Christian philosophers and theologians embraced humility and questioning authority, echoing Pyrrho's teachings. By adopting a skeptical approach, Christians sought to avoid dogmatic beliefs and embrace the wisdom that comes from uncertainty. This far-reaching impact demonstrates the enduring influence of Pyrrho's ideas on philosophical thought and religious practices. The Stoics believed that the path to inner peace lay in accepting and conforming to one's circumstances. They advocated for living in accordance with nature, or logos, which they saw as an orderly and rational force governing the universe. The Stoics would argue that this approach is passive and avoids the responsibilities of action. They believed in taking active steps to cultivate virtue and live in harmony with nature, not simply withdrawing from judgment. Pyrrho's equanimity, honed during his travels with Alexander the Great, was legendary. His ability to remain unperturbed in any situation challenged the Stoic ideal of accepting and conforming to one's circumstances. The Stoics valued wisdom and knowledge as key components of a virtuous life. They believed that understanding the nature of reality was essential for living in accordance with it. These differences sparked intense philosophical debates between Pyrrhonists and Stoics. The Stoics would argue that without knowledge, one cannot truly live in accordance with nature. Though their methods differed, both Pyrrho and the Stoics sought to achieve inner peace and live virtuously. The debates between them refined and challenged each other's ideas, contributing to the rich tapestry of ancient Greek philosophy. The Cynics, known for their indifference to material possessions and societal norms, found common ground with Pyrrho's advocacy for a life of unperturbedness. Both philosophies emphasized the value of simplicity and freedom from worldly desires, highlighting a shared theme of indifference towards material wealth. This mutual focus on detachment from societal expectations created a bridge between the two schools of thought, reflecting a broader shift in ancient Greek philosophy towards inner peace and virtuous living. For instance, Diogenes of Sinope, one of the most renowned Cynic philosophers, lived in a barrel to demonstrate his disdain for material possessions. This act of voluntary poverty mirrors Pyrrho's own decision to live in poor circumstances after returning from his travels with Alexander the Great. Both philosophers believed that true happiness and inner peace could be achieved through a life stripped of unnecessary complexities and material attachments. This shared belief in the power of simplicity and detachment underscores the influence Pyrrho's philosophy had on Cynic thought, as well as its broader impact on ancient Greek philosophy. The interaction between Pyrrhonism and Cynicism not only refined each other's ideas, but also contributed to the rich tapestry of ancient Greek philosophical traditions. The gymnosophists, who practiced extreme forms of asceticism, taught him about the relativity of human experience. They believed that true wisdom could only be attained through a life of unperturbedness. Similarly, the Magi of Persia, known for their mystical and philosophical teachings, emphasized the idea that sense perceptions do not necessarily correlate with reality. This challenged Pyrrho's assumptions about how one should interpret the world. This approach to life, later systematized by Sextus Empiricus as Pyrrhonism, underscores the practical implications of environmental determinism, that the environments we inhabit can deeply shape our philosophical beliefs. Born amidst the bustling marketplaces and gymnasiums of Elis, Pyrrho was exposed to diverse philosophical traditions early in life. His teachings resonated with the Greeks, who were grappling with political instability and seeking answers to governance challenges. Pyrrhonism, later systematized by Sextus Empiricus, suggests that political systems can be unreliable because they are based on judgments about the nature of reality. In the turbulent world of ancient Greece, where cities frequently fell into chaos or were conquered by invading forces, Pyrrho's advocacy for skepticism offered a pathway to personal tranquility amidst external turmoil. This philosophical stance does not advocate for political apathy, but rather underscores the importance of individual resilience and inner strength in navigating uncertain times. For Pyrrho, the role of the individual in society is not to blindly follow political dogma, but to cultivate a state of mind that can withstand the vagaries of external circumstances. His philosophy poses a challenge to those who believe that political stability is achievable through rigid adherence to ideologies and doctrines. By advocating for skepticism, Pyrrho invites us to question the very foundations of our beliefs about governance and society. In doing so, he offers a path towards a more nuanced understanding of political thought in ancient Greece. Ultimately, Pyrrho's ideas suggest that true peace and stability may not come from external political structures, but from the cultivation of inner tranquility through skepticism. This principle extends beyond personal serenity and can be applied to our relationships, particularly friendships. Imagine this: you're in a heated argument with a close friend. Tensions are high and emotions run wild. At such moments, Pyrrho's teachings on unperturbedness can guide us to pause and consider whether our judgments are truly grounded in reality. By suspending judgment, we might step back from our immediate emotions and look at the situation with a clearer perspective. This pause can help us avoid making hasty decisions or saying things we might regret. In the context of friendships, maintaining this unperturbed state can lead to more harmonious and resilient relationships. Pyrrho believed that true peace of mind comes from not being swayed by fleeting emotions or situations. Applying this in our friendships can help us weather disagreements and conflicts without letting them disrupt the bond. The art of friendship, according to Pyrrho, lies in our ability to remain steadfast and unperturbed amidst life's challenges. This resilience allows us to preserve and strengthen our connections, even in the face of adversity. In a world full of distractions and constant change, the principles of unperturbedness and skepticism can be our compass towards enduring friendships. Pyrrho's emphasis on unperturbedness through suspension of judgment continues to resonate in contemporary thought, influencing modern philosophers who advocate for skepticism. Among the notable figures inspired by Pyrrhonian skepticism is Michel de Montaigne. In his Essais, Montaigne explores the concept of unperturbedness, arguing that true wisdom lies in acknowledging the limits of our knowledge. David Hume, another prominent philosopher, also draws inspiration from Pyrrho's skepticism. Hume's empiricism emphasizes that our knowledge is derived solely from sensory experience, echoing Pyrrho's belief in the suspension of judgment based on perception. In his Enquiry Concerning Human Understanding, Hume argues that we must question our sensory perceptions to approach a state of unperturbedness. These philosophers, like Pyrrho before them, seek to cultivate a state of tranquility through the acknowledgement of our epistemic limitations. Pyrrho's philosophy, born from his travels and exposure to diverse intellectual traditions, provides a foundational framework for contemporary skepticism. In a world filled with uncertainty and change, the principles of unperturbedness and skepticism offer a steadfast guide towards inner peace and clarity. In the realm of scientific inquiry, Pyrrhonian skepticism reveals an intriguing parallel. Science, at its core, thrives on empiricism and a relentless revision of hypotheses. Like Pyrrho, scientists approach the world with a healthy dose of doubt, questioning existing beliefs and striving for truth through rigorous testing. Karl Popper's philosophy of science echoes this principle, asserting that scientific theories must be falsifiable and subject to constant testing. This alignment between Pyrrhonian thought and the scientific method suggests that skepticism is not merely a philosophical stance, but also a practical tool. By remaining open to new evidence and questioning established truths, scientists embody the spirit of Pyrrhonian skepticism. This intersection reinforces the idea that doubt can lead us towards clarity and understanding, rather than confusion. Ultimately, the principles of Pyrrhonian skepticism can enrich our pursuit of knowledge by encouraging us to question, test, and revise our beliefs continually. Pyrrho's philosophy, born out of his travels with Alexander the Great and encounters with Eastern thinkers, offers a unique perspective on navigating everyday life. Imagine walking through a bustling market in ancient Greece with Pyrrho by your side. Consider the vendor who raises his voice, trying to sell you something. Instead of reacting with anxiety or aggression, Pyrrho suggests taking a step back. Ask yourself, how do I know if this price is fair? Is the seller telling the truth? By withholding judgment, you can remain calm and make a more informed decision. This principle of skepticism can be applied to our modern-day information overload. When faced with uncertain news or claims on social media, remember Pyrrho's equanimity. Instead of instantly accepting or rejecting information, take a moment to question its source and validity. Imagine the relief from stress and anxiety when you don't have to instantly form an opinion about everything. In a fast-paced world where expectations often lead to disappointment, Pyrrho's philosophy encourages us to manage our own. Lower your expectations, and you'll be less likely to be let down. It's a small shift, but one that can significantly improve our daily lives. Pyrrho's philosophy advocates for a state of mental calm and balance, a concept known as equanimity. The idea is not to be swayed by external events or internal emotions, but rather to maintain an inner peace regardless of circumstances. To achieve this state of equanimity, Pyrrho taught that one must practice the suspension of judgment. This means not making definitive statements about anything, including sense perceptions. According to Sextus Empiricus, a prominent figure in Pyrrhonism texts, suspending judgment leads to unperturbedness. This is because when we avoid making strong judgments, we become less affected by the ups and downs of life. For instance, if we see something that could be perceived as good or bad, we don't label it as such. Instead, we acknowledge the ambiguity and remain calm, knowing that our perception might not match reality. This practice helps us avoid the emotional roller coaster that often comes with judgment. Instead of getting excited or distressed by what we perceive, we maintain a state of mental balance. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of Elis, taking in all the sights and sounds without assigning them any positive or negative value. You simply observe, acknowledging that your perception may not be absolute truth. This is what Pyrrhonism aims for, a life of unperturbedness and skepticism. By suspending judgment, we create a mental fortress that shields us from the turmoil of the world. Ultimately, Pyrrho's philosophy teaches us to lower our expectations and not be easily swayed by appearances. This small shift can significantly improve our daily lives by keeping us in a state of calm and balance. Exposure to Indian thinkers and their radical approach to skepticism left a profound mark on Pyrrho. He returned to Elis with a new mission: to live simply and free from disturbances. Historically, this approach was not just philosophical, but also practical. Pyrrho advocated for living in very poor circumstances to avoid the distractions and anxieties that wealth can bring. In a time when philosophical debates often led to heated arguments, Pyrrho stood out for his equanimity. His calmness in the face of differing views was legendary. This commitment to a life free from disturbance was more than just a philosophical stance. It was Pyrrho's deeply held belief in how one should live. As we explore more about Pyrrho, it becomes clear that his commitment to Ataraxia was not just a theoretical pursuit, but a way of life he embodied deeply. Pyrrhonism advocated for a radical suspension of judgment, a stance that initially seemed controversial within the existing philosophical landscape. But as Hellenistic ethics evolved, this skeptical approach offered a unique perspective on how to achieve inner tranquility in an ever-changing world. Pyrrho's experiences with the gymnosophists and magi of Persia, along with his travels with Alexander the Great, exposed him to diverse cultural views on life. This exposure to Eastern philosophies deepened his understanding that absolute truths might be elusive and that suspension of judgment could lead to a more peaceful existence. In the context of Hellenistic ethics, This perspective challenged conventional wisdom by suggesting that ethical judgments should be questioned and reconsidered. The influence of Pyrrhonism extended to various schools of thought, including Epicureanism, which borrowed the principle of Ataraxia to advocate for a life free from fear and anxiety. Through these influences, Pyrrho's ideas helped shape a more nuanced approach to ethics that valued skepticism and introspection. As Hellenistic thinkers grappled with the complexities of their time, Pyrrhonian skepticism provided a framework for understanding that certainty is not always achievable and that doubt can be a pathway to wisdom. This legacy of questioning ethical absolutes continues to resonate in contemporary philosophical debates, demonstrating the lasting impact of Pyrrho's ideas on ethical thought. These experiences planted seeds of doubt within Pyrrho's mind. If people from such different backgrounds could hold such divergent views on reality, what hope did anyone have in claiming absolute certainty? As he delved deeper into this epistemological quandary, Pyrrho came to believe that our perceptions are fundamentally flawed and do not correspond to an objective reality. Pyrrho argued that because our senses can deceive us, no judgment should be made with absolute certainty. This radical stance was the foundation of his philosophy known as Pyrrhonism. Upon returning to Elis, Pyrrho applied this principle to his daily life. He chose a lifestyle of simplicity and detachment, aiming for what he termed Ataraxia, a state of unperturbedness and tranquility. Historical context reveals that Pyrrho's philosophy emerged amidst the rich tapestry of Hellenistic philosophies. During his travels with Alexander the Great, he encountered various Eastern thinkers, including the Gymnosophists and Magi. Their influence led him to adopt a lifestyle centered on detachment and simplicity. In practical terms, Pyrrho believed that by not judging the world around him, he could maintain a state of unperturbedness. This did not mean indifference, but rather an active choice to remain calm and composed in the face of life's challenges. It was a moral framework that valued equanimity above all else. To understand how this worked in practice, consider an everyday scenario. Imagine Pyrrho witnessing a heated debate among his peers. Rather than taking sides or forming judgments about who is right or wrong, he would observe the situation with a clear and calm mind. Moreover, this ethical stance was not about complacency, but rather about taking responsible actions. Pyrrho's non-judgment did not mean he passively accepted all situations. Instead, it guided him to act in a manner that promoted harmony and peace. In ancient Greek philosophy, a concept known as Apraxia has long been debated and explored. This state of non-action or inactivity is not merely about doing nothing. Rather, it signifies a profound choice to abstain from action, driven by a deep philosophical conviction. The Eusebian Aristocles passage captures the essence of Pyrrho's thought. As for the things laid down by the dogmatists, either one must say nothing about them or else speak against them. For in truth, there is a difference between saying something and asserting it. This principle guides us to understand that Pyrrho's advocacy for Apraxia was not about inaction, but about a deliberate choice to act only in ways that do not disrupt the balance and harmony he sought. By living in a state of non-action or minimal action, Pyrrho believed one could cultivate an inner stillness. This stillness was not passive, but a dynamic state of mindful existence. This idea is echoed in the Python dialogue by Timon of Phlius, where Pyrrho's life and teachings are portrayed as a model of equanimity amidst the world's fluctuations. In essence, Apraxia for Pyrrho was not about ceasing to act, but about acting only in ways that promote harmony and peace. It is a deliberate choice to abstain from actions that disturb one's inner tranquility. This concept of Apraxia remains as relevant today as it was in ancient times. It challenges us to consider the power of deliberate non-action and the profound philosophical insights that can be gained from such a state. Pyrrho's journey extends beyond ethics into the realm of metaphysical inquiry, the examination of the fundamental nature of reality itself. He begins to ponder if reality is as it appears, or merely a construct of our perceptions. This metaphysical skepticism deepens his conviction that true peace can only be achieved by suspending judgment on all matters. Historical texts, such as those preserved by Diogenes Laertius, provide insights into Pyrrho's rejection of absolute truths in metaphysics. He argues that sensory experiences do not correspond to an objective reality. This metaphysical skepticism, when combined with his ethical beliefs, creates a comprehensive philosophy of unperturbedness. It demonstrates that Pyrrho's advocacy for Ataraxia is not merely an ethical stance, but a profound insight into the nature of existence itself. Pyrrho's philosophy of unperturbedness, or Ataraxia, was not just an ethical stance, but a profound insight into the nature of existence itself. This perspective resonated deeply with ancient medical practitioners who saw in Pyrrho's teachings a practical guide for their own profession. One of the most notable applications of Pyrrhonian thought in ancient medical practice is found in the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath is one of the oldest binding documents in history and remains a cornerstone of medical ethics today. It was named after Hippocrates, often referred to as the father of medicine, who lived around 460–3070 BCE. The oath emphasizes the importance of suspending judgment and maintaining a state of unperturbedness when dealing with patients and their ailments. For instance, it states that physicians should abstain from doing harm to their patients and only perform actions with the utmost benefit for the patient. By adopting this approach, ancient medical practitioners could better navigate the complexities and uncertainties inherent in treating patients. The oath also includes a commitment to maintaining patient confidentiality, which echoes the Pyrrhonian ideal of withholding judgment and not making hasty conclusions. Moreover, it states that the physician should treat patients with respect and dignity, reflecting Pyrrho's belief in leading a peaceful life through skepticism. This connection between Pyrrhonian thought and the Hippocratic Oath highlights the practical application of philosophical beliefs in ancient medical practices. Pyrrho's philosophy did not just influence ancient medical guidelines, but also shaped ethical considerations in various domains of life. For example, his belief in the suspension of judgment could be seen as a precursor to modern scientific methods, where hypotheses are tested and revised based on evidence. In the realm of law and justice, Pyrrhonian skepticism might have fostered a climate where lawyers and judges were more cautious in their decisions, striving to remain unbiased. The principle of skepticism also resonates with contemporary philosophical views that advocate for intellectual humility and the importance of questioning our beliefs. In essence, Pyrrho's philosophy offered a blueprint for living in a world filled with uncertainty and complexity. It underscores the importance of maintaining an open mind and approaching life with a sense of calm acceptance, rather than dogmatic certainty. This perspective continues to be relevant today, as we navigate an increasingly complex world where truth and falsehood are often blurred. In conclusion, the influence of Pyrrho's philosophy on medical ethics and broader ethical considerations demonstrates the real-world applications of his profound insights. His teachings not only offered a framework for personal tranquility, but also shaped practical guidelines that have stood the test of time. Thus, the legacy of Pyrrho's advocacy for Ataraxia continues to guide us in our pursuit of a peaceful and ethical life. Pyrrho taught that the path to unperturbedness, Ataraxia, lay in skepticism and emotional detachment. He believed that by remaining skeptical of any dogma or absolute truths, one could achieve a state of emotional equilibrium. One of the key concepts in Pyrrho's teachings was apatheia, the absence of passion or emotion. Apatheia is not about suppressing emotions, but rather about cultivating a state of inner tranquility where one is neither excited nor disturbed by external events. This concept was revolutionary in a world where strong emotional reactions were often seen as virtues. Pyrrho's philosophy emphasized the idea that true peace comes from detaching oneself from the fluctuations of emotions. He taught that this emotional detachment could be achieved through a practice of skepticism, questioning the nature of reality and our perceptions of it. By remaining open to multiple perspectives and never fully committing to any single belief, one could maintain a state of emotional equilibrium. Thus, Pyrrho's advocacy for ataraxia through skepticism offers a path toward detaching from emotional turmoil and living a life of unperturbedness.